Cautious trade on the street. The Nifty trades near session lows as bulls take a breather from the pullback rally. Auto and IT stocks under pressure while metals see some buying. The Nifty remains around the 20 DMA while the mid-cap index fares a tad better. Big block trades in the market today. Gokuldas Exports sees almost 10% equity change hands with promoter entity Clear Wealth Consultancy selling half its stake. Home First Finance is under pressure after 8.4% equity changes hand. A large venture cap fund is believed to be the seller. Stocks in news today. Sequence Scientific sees a relief rally of 13% as the company backtracks on plans of acquiring Terneta Pharma, which was valued at 218 crore rupees. Religare rallies as the company completes an all-encompassing one-time settlement with its creditors. And a big capex boost moves Powers Max Healthcare. The stock gains 3% after CMD Abhay Soy tells CNBC-TV18 that the company will undertake a 4,500 crore capex to add 2,800 beds over the next 4 years. The capex will be funded via internal accruals. And Adani Group stocks are under pressure as promoter creates additional pledges in some of the group companies. Adani Transmission sees an increase of 0.76% in promoter pledges, and Adani Green sees promoter pledge rise by nearly 1%. Hi guys, good afternoon and welcome to Business Lunch. I'm Pavitra Parekh. Those are all of the top headlines that we have for you this afternoon. So there's a lot going on in the market. For now, we've actually moved to the low point of the day, pretty much around those levels, just a little bit off that. It's currently a 90-point downtick that we are seeing on the Nifty. The Nifty Bank, by the way, has been quite volatile today. So we did see that move, lower to around 140 points in terms of a loss. There was quite a recovery that came through, like you can see on your screen. We moved into the green as well. But once again, right now, we're looking at a loss of over 100 points. 112 points lower is what we have on the Nifty Bank. There are some which are still holding up from the larger names, the likes of Axis, HDFC Bank holding up better. But, overall, we are seeing quite some cuts come through for the Nifty Bank. What's doing better, and if you do want to look for some, positives in this market, is that the mid-cap index is holding up a lot better than what's going on with the front line. So the mid-cap index is trading absolutely flat right now, just around 30 points in the red. So that is encouraging to look at. If you're still looking for some green, what's also holding up well is the metal names. So take a look at Tata Steel, JSW, Hindalco. I'm just naming a few of the larger names, but this sector is perhaps the only sectoral index which is in the green right now. For the Adani pack, like we told you, they are seeing some cuts. So Adani Ports, Adani Enterprises, they're actually the top. They have come off the low significantly. So these ones are holding up slightly better. But there are more news flow, more of the group stocks which are in focus on the back of news flow. So do keep those on your radar. And what's definitely not doing well today is the auto pack. So something like an M&M, Eicher. These are the ones which are seeing some cuts. Eicher, like you can see, has seen quite a recovery from the lows. But these ones are some which are in focus as well. So that's what's going on with the market action. We will talk more about this in just a bit. But the top focus on Business Lunch is the action that we've seen in global markets. We have been talking about this, and there's a lot of concern coming through after Fed Chairman Jerome Powell's comments indicating that the central bank would consider speeding up the pace of rate hikes as it seeks to contain inflation in the face of a stubbornly strong economy. So what lies ahead and what are the levels to which rates could really go up to? CNBC's Steve Leisman is here with all of the details on this story.
I had a lot of these in my bingo card, but not necessarily a clear statement that the pace of rate hikes could increase. And he made clear that a higher funds rate is likely and that the Fed is going to stay there for some time and the Fed could possibly hike at a faster pace. Here's a look. We're calling this, Becky, the Fedometer, showing the outlook for the pace, level, and duration of hikes. We have a 63% probability of a 50-point hike. That shows the market's leaning there towards that 50. The peak funds rate now seen at 563. That is 16 basis points higher than it was before the speech. All we know about duration from Powell is he and other Fed officials have said this. They intend to remain sufficiently restrictive for some time, and we'll just update this as data come in and as Fed folks speak. So the focus on Wall Street is, what does the data have to look like for the Fed to hike 50? Is it now the default position? Well, Barclays says the bar for 50 basis point in March is now lower. Yes, that's true. They say a jobs number above 200,000 would be enough for that 50 and to raise the Fed's median projection to where the market is now, from 513 to 560 for 2023. Over at Evercore, our friend Krishna Guha says we still need 25. because we think the next batch of data will be appreciably cooler and the Fed will apply a reasonable standard for evaluating this. So Evercore's comments, I think, emphasize what Powell made clear. The decision is not preset. It depends on the data, and that includes jobs on Friday, inflation next week, retail sales, JOLTS, all kinds of stuff. The question for today, does Powell see a need to walk back or soften anything he said yesterday? I think given that most important parts of the remarks were in the statement, I don't think he's got anything to walk back.
All right, Steve, thanks a lot for that. But in fact, staying with the Fed, let's also listen to former Federal Reserve Governor Robert Heller giving his take on the probability of a recession in the United States. Hear him out, and we'll then continue.
There are two broad signals that would predict a recession right now. Number one is the inversion of the yield curve. Short-term interest rates for treasuries are about 1 percentage point higher than long-term yields. And that's a very, very good predictor for a future recession coming up, maybe half a year from now, 3/4 of a year, towards the end of this year. And second, the money supply, which I keep watching very carefully, has not been growing at all for the last year, since last April. And that would also portend that there will be a slowdown, that there will be a recession. So I would say overall, watch out for a recession in the United States in the second half or later this year.
All right, we could see a recession in the United States in the second half of the year. That's the word coming in. But let's now move from Wall Street to some important macro action from Asia. China's consumer price inflation eased to 1% in February, rising at the slowest pace that we've seen since February of last year. That's February of 2022. The figure is lower than Reuters' forecast of a 1.9% increase. Not just CPI, but in fact, the producer prices in China also declined 1.4% in February, which is largely driven by softer commodity costs and more than the estimated 1.3% decline. So that's important to track from a China macro standpoint. But with that, we do have to get into a short break on this show. On the other side, we're going to decode the outperformance of the power sectors that we have been talking about in the power sector PSU stocks. So stay tuned for that special. Welcome back. You're still tuned into Business Lunch. We're still looking at a near 100-point cut on the Nifty right now, so around 0.5% gone over there. In fact, in the past few minutes, the Nifty Bank has also seen losses widen a little bit. So something like a Kotak Bank at the low point of the day. In fact, you have a lot of these. So even if you take a look at ICICI Bank, it has moved pretty much to the low point of the day once again. So we are seeing some pressure once again in the Nifty Bank pack. But let's for now bring you our special Clutter Breakers segment. Today, we're going to put the spotlight on power sector PSUs, which, like we've been telling you, have outperformed in 2023 so far. So Vivek is here to tell us what is really fueling this outperformance. Vivek, it's over to you.
Well, the power sector PSU stocks have actually outperformed in 2023. With so much news flow regarding the rising demand and the government invoking an emergency clause, here is a deep dive in the power sector. Demand has been quite strong and growing in February, with peak demand constantly breaching 200 gigawatts on a daily basis. When you're talking about what exactly is causing this particular rise, it's a double whammy of heat waves, and the El Nino impact is expected to keep power demand quite high. The anticipated higher demand has prompted the Ministry of Power to invoke an emergency clause in the Electricity Act to support imported coal-based power plants to restart and to allow a cost pass-through. Generation trends too have remained quite strong in February 2023, with generation growth for February 2023 at 7% growth on a year-on-year basis. When you're talking about the PLF trends, they too have remained very strong in FY23. Now remember, PLFs were at 63.7% for the period of April 2022 to January 2023 versus 57.4% in the same period last year. When you're talking about pricing, that too has remained very strong and is expected to gain further ground going into the summer season. Merchant power prices gained 8% on a month-on-month basis in February 2023. Now, talking about the power sector stocks, why have they done so well in 2023? It's a combination of factors. Number one, utilities are seen as a defensive, high dividend yielding bet in a volatile environment. Now, when you add that with improving fundamentals like increasing PLF, lower discom dues, easing supply chain constraints, these two add to the positive sentiment. Brokerages remain quite bullish on all of these PSU power stocks. In fact, all of the brokerages have a positive stance on NTPC, with HSBC having a target price of 205 rupees a share. Citi too is very bullish on the prospects of Power Grid, with a target price of 275 rupees a share.
All right, Vivek, thanks a lot for bringing us that complete deep dive into what's going on with the power PSUs and the big move that we've seen in this space since the beginning of this year. But with that, we need to get into a short break on the show. As we do that, here's a quick programming note. On the 14th of March, CNBC-TV18 will host what will be India's largest summit on gender parity in New Delhi. Women leaders from all walks of life will come together to brainstorm and help take decisive steps in order to bridge the gender inequality that exists in India as well as across the world. The event starts at 4:30 p.m. on the 14th of March, and you can catch all of the action live right here on CNBC-TV18. Welcome back. It is the second day of Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese's India tour, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi as well as the Australian Prime Minister took a lap of honour at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad, where the two leaders attended the first day of the India versus Australia Test match. Later in the day, the Australian Prime Minister will also visit Mumbai, where he will be given the Guard of Honour on the newly commissioned Indian Navy ship, that is the INS Vikrant. After Mumbai, both Prime Ministers will meet at the Hyderabad House in the national capital, followed by an exchange of agreements between the two nations. So that is the latest that we know about the Australian Prime Minister's trip in India. But with that, we have to wind down on this edition of Business Lunch with some rather somber news that's coming in. Veteran actor and director Satish Kaushik passed away early this morning in Delhi. According to reports, he was in Delhi when he suffered a heart attack while traveling in a car. Condolences have been pouring in from all across the film fraternity. Remember, Satish Kaushik has acted in over 100 films, and he essayed the most lovable character of Calendar in the 1987 super hit film Mr. India and Pappu Peja in Deewana Mastana.
Powered by